Get ready to fight from within. You're about to go behind enemy lines.
Roger, 3-2. Goliath copies all. Go ahead. Target is surrounded by multiple firms entering what appears to be a residential area. Requesting permission to engage. Over.
From the People's Republic of New York City, you're now going behind enemy lines with Gene Berardelli and Russ Gallo. And you're now behind enemy lines. Hey there, how you doing, America? Gene Berardelli here with you. I'm not flying solo tonight, but Russ Gallo is not hanging with us. He is still celebrating a tremendous win for the Republican Party and for Donald Trump. Joining me, our resident hack, political expert extraordinaire, Amanda Kohut. Amanda, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Gene. How about you?
Oh, I'm still basking in the afterglow of one of the most improbable results in election history.
I did not see it coming, Gene, and I will be the first to admit, as your resident Rhino hack, I was wrong.
Oh, it's on tape. It's on tape. Oh, I think we lost you. Hang on a second, man. I'm going to bring you right back. I think the call kind of got disturbed there because she admitted she was wrong. Let's get her back on. Amanda's coming back on right now. Hopefully. But listen, we got a great show. Amanda, you back with us?
I'm back with you.
Okay, back away from the mic a little bit. You're a little hot, but let me get the rundown of the showdown for everyone so everybody knows what's going on. Amanda and I are going to be breaking down elections 2016 into a million pieces. We're going to talk about how and why this all happened. We're going to talk about the media angle and the comeuppance of the arrogance of media. And then we're going to do a little bit of a fantasy cabinet and see who we want in charge of the executive branch in various agencies within the federal government. But first and foremost, Amanda Kohut. First of all, you said you were wrong and then the phone collapsed. I don't know what happened there, but that was pretty apropos. Because you did not see this coming at all, did you?
No, Gene, from day one, I said that there is absolutely no way that Donald Trump could win this race. At all.
I know. Repeatedly, by the way. By the way, you said
repeatedly.
that.
I said, this man is the antithesis of what I considered, and I say I now, rather than we, I say I considered presidential. I have always perceived the president to be much more in control of words and deeds, more diplomatic. And I walked away realizing that maybe the country did not necessarily agree with his words, but there was an overwhelming sense of the need for a shakeup in Washington, which I think is one factor that led to the results on Tuesday. Another factor were there very serious and real concerns about Hillary Clinton's treatment of classified materials and her perception that she was above the law when it comes to the handling of said material. But also, I think that most mainstream Americans were sick and tired of having pejoratives constantly thrown at them, because the Clinton campaign spent the entirety of the past year and a half lobbing pejoratives at Trump and his supporters. And I know that there are millions of good people out there who do not appreciate being told that they are racist or sexist or misogynist or xenophobic. They had valid reasons for
and you know what, though, Amanda? You are only scratching the surface of this, not only the significance of the victory, but how this victory came to be. When you get down to it, the one thing that you mentioned first, and we'll jump right into it, liberal hubris, I guess we'll call it, or as Reverend Al calls it, hubris. Whatever. I can't do it the way he does. But there is this, and you hit on it, the disdain of liberals, especially, what we call the limousine liberals that run Washington, the disdain that they have for flyover country, the areas in between New York and LA that they never visit unless they need something out of them. The Rust Belt has been talked about so much in the media lately, and how they miscalculated the Rust Belt. And I think, Amanda, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, the voters who put Barack Obama into office for 2 terms are the people that shifted over to Donald Trump. When they're in favor with Democrats, they are considered to be blue-collar, hardworking Americans. When they are in disfavor with the Democratic Party, they are racist, uneducated hicks. And that's what happened here, in my opinion. That's one of the main factors. The liberal hubris towards the Rust Belt.
Oh, absolutely. And, when I think about this in particular, I'm thinking about Pennsylvania. Because I think about Pennsylvania as coal country. These are people who, not just coal, but also the Marcellus Shale. These are people who have a lot of dependency on natural resources and the energy sector for their means of living. And I think about the message that the Democrats have been sending out during this campaign about, climate change and the need to switch to renewables and the horrors of coal, and the fact that there are states that don't want to exploit the Marcellus Shale. I think that those people in Pennsylvania were sick and tired of being told that they couldn't make an honest, decent living. And they felt very alienated by the message that the Democrats sent out. And here comes Donald Trump, and he's just talking about blue-collar workers and about building infrastructure and increasing our energy output and production. And that resonated with them. So I think, in hindsight, when I look at the results in a state like Pennsylvania, I say, you know what? This makes perfect sense.
And you know what? How many times did you tell me, even on election night when we were hanging out watching the returns, how many times did you tell me Pennsylvania is the state that is always teasing the turn but never comes through? But this time around, Western Pennsylvania turned out to vote, those same people you were just talking about, and it turned around the entire election.
Oh, yeah. It's been more than 30 years since Pennsylvania had voted for Republican, and every time the presidential election rolls around, Pennsylvania ends up not even being close. They vote for a Democrat. But I think the difference this time around was that Donald Trump utilized a very populist message, which is contrary to the Republicans' message in years past that has been more focused on being business-friendly rather than worker-friendly. And this is I will admit, this is some very uncomfortable territory for me as a fiscal conservative, as a business Republican, because we don't naturally have a solid relationship with labor, with the workforce as Republicans. So this is a very new message. I definitely think we're seeing the start of a political realignment in having the labor forces favoring Republican candidates. So I'm going to project now that I think that when Donald Trump runs for re-election, I think Pennsylvania will continue to support him.
That's a 4-year-old prediction. We'll check back in on that if we still have a show. But you know what? Here's the thing as well. Did Hillary Clinton even bother to check out a lot of these areas in the Rust Belt? She didn't even go to Wisconsin. Wisconsin turned red this time around. The home of Paul Ryan and Reince Priebus, she doesn't even show up to even try to turn it. What kind of campaign strategy is that? Was it that far in their hip pocket, they thought? Or is this, again, a symptom of the liberal hubris?
I definitely think it's the hubris. They have taken so many states and demographics for granted. They assume that Pennsylvania, that Wisconsin were locks because they had always been locks. So what's the purpose in investing time and money and resources in those states? Absolutely hubris. But not just states. I also think about demographics. there's the assumption that African Americans, that Hispanics, that women would naturally be completely on board the Clinton train. And it turns out that Trump won a majority of white women, and he performed better with blacks and with Hispanics than Mitt Romney did.
And, this brings up an interesting point that we can talk about as well. The idea that racism played a role in this campaign. Van Jones on CNN on election night calling it a white lash. I'm sorry, but if this would have been Megyn Kelly 4 or 8 years ago saying that the Barack Obama won because of a black lash, we wouldn't know who Megyn Kelly is right now. How?
No,
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it. If they chopped off her head and stuck it on the top of the Brooklyn Bridge, I would have said, yeah, of course. That's the response. That's how people would have responded to it.
I just don't understand. Okay, so when we talk about racism, again, I opened up my remarks by saying the same voters, the same white, middle-class, blue-collar voters who turned out for Barack Obama, they either turned out for Trump or they didn't turn out at all. But again, in 2008, 2012, those voters are seen, as I said, blue-collar, hard-working, salt-of-the-earth Democrat voters. When they vote for a Republican, they're all of a sudden uneducated, bigoted, misogynistic, racist rubes. It's amazing.
Let me make this point. For the record, I think that across the board, and anyone who tunes into this show would agree that, yes, there is racism.
No doubt.
We are not denying that. The fact that the KKK actually played a role in this election, had any significant coverage, is proof in itself that there is racism. The difference is, we are not alleging that racism was the driving dominant force for millions of people to make the decisions they did when they went to the voting booth. And it touches back on the point that I made about people are sick and tired of being told that they are being unsensitive and that they're being racist, that they're not being transsectional, that, every possible pejorative that you possibly lob at someone, the liberals have. And I think Hillary Clinton really doubled down on it when she made her basket of deplorable comments, because you have all these middle Americans who really do feel like they are in that basket because they've been told nothing from the left other than what the left perceives them to be doing wrong, or how the left believes that they think incorrectly. The left has created a very narrow perspective on their view of the world. And I'll also come out and say, I think that half of America is actually afraid to have any sort of honest dialogue about race in this country or sexism in this country because they feel reprisal. They believe that they will be retaliated against simply because they have a different perspective.
And that's what Donald Trump was talking about when he talks about political correctness and the whole idea that people are being silenced by the left. Absolutely right. But now let me ask you this, because you brought up the basket of deplorables. Will that phrase go down with history the way that Mitt Romney's comment about 47% went down in history? Was that the albatross around Hillary Clinton's neck?
Had it not been for the fact that this race was so turbulent, I would have said yes. But when we look back at, a candidate like Romney, he is so vanilla compared to what we have seen this year, and the Clinton campaign in itself was so flawed that I can't just say, basket of deplorables will be the iconic game changer. But it's definitely going to be one of those phrases that people keep in mind along the lines of the 47% or binders full of women.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that one, too. Absolutely. Let's talk about another point as we're talking about how and why